The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now in theaters. The long awaited, not really awaited, but the surprise legacy sequel from the early 2000s, big hit, The Devil Wears Prada. Everyone's Back, directed by Dave Frankel, starring Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci. Personally, I am a fan of the original Devil Wears Prada. It in 2006, whenever that came out, I was, I was 10 years old, more or less. And normally that's not a movie that would appeal to, a 10-year-old boy, perhaps. But I remember thinking it was charming. I've rewatched it many times over the years, and it's quite funny. It's very good. It's Meryl Streep at the pinnacle of her performances. Anne Hathaway, as always, is super charming, super awesome in it. And for the most part, I gotta say, I liked this movie. I liked The Devil Wears Prada too. But does it touch anywhere near the original? I would say no. Like, basically not even close. While I liked this movie, and I really, really liked The Devil Wears Prada, I don't really think this movie surpasses the original in any way. Like, not jokes or looks or acting or the fashion, which the fashion is quite good in this movie. You'll be surprised to hear that people are dressed wonderfully in this. One problem is that I wouldn't say they're shot, they're pictured as well as they are in the original, because good cinematography is just too hard to come by this day and age with digital cameras and such. I suppose everything is a little bleh out. It kind of looks like an episode of TV every now and then. I wouldn't say the colors pop off the screen the way that maybe you would hope that they would. But that's okay. So be it. It's still not a bad looking movie. I've seen a lot worse this year. The problem with legacy sequels is that normally, you're gonna run into the issue of is this gonna be too nostalgic? Is this gonna be an actual movie, or are we just gonna be pointing at the screen and like, hey, I that's a reference from the first movie? This one's not so much that, I'd say. There's just enough callbacks and references. I mean, there has to be. It is a legacy sequel, so they're gonna do that, and it's gonna be fun for the audience to recognize these moments. Fine, you can have it. You just earn it. That's all. Just earn it, and I think this movie more or less earns it. But I think the main reason that it earns it, is because this script, this story that is told here, The Devil Wears Prada 2, is quite sad. This is quite a depressing movie. There is enough kind of upbeat, the pace of the movie is well done, I think, where very much like the first one, it's kind of go, 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 because, Anne Hathaway's playing the assistant to Meryl Streep, and she's very much go, 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 and freaking out, and so on and so forth. But this movie is very depressing. I mean, in the first, 5 minutes, Anne Hathaway, who we find out has, moved on from her time at Runway Magazine and is an editor at a different magazine or a newspaper or whatever it is. At the same exact time that she wins a journalism award, she is fired and downsized because of her magazine, her newspaper, whatever it was purchased by private equity and downsized immediately, which, yeah. This is why this movie is depressing, because this movie does not shy away from the realities that are going on in a lot of, we'll say, not just journalism, but corporate America in itself, where there's downsizing. There's private equity comes in, buys out your companies, and then rips it apart for spare parts, downsizes, fires people, cuts costs, all in the hope of turning a profit more or less later down the line. Whatever, not great. And the movie hits you over the head with that a lot, I would say. And maybe I'll touch more on that in a little bit. But the other big difference, I would say, is Meryl Streep's character, Miranda Priestley, perhaps you've heard of her, was very much the focal point of The Devil Wears Prada, the first movie. Even though, Anne Hathaway is the main character, but she's also the audience surrogate in the first movie. We are experiencing Miranda Priestley through Anne Hathaway's eyes, along with her. This is very much Anne Hathaway's movie. Was that a good decision? I don't know. Because what's happening is Runway Magazine, Meryl Streep's magazine that she runs, more or less, editor-in-chief, whatever. is, trying to keep up with the times of online, of, TikTok and Instagram and blah, 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 blah. Same old story about how everything's worse off than it was 20 years ago, whatever. And because of that, Miranda has turned soft is not the right word because she's still very cold, but doesn't necessarily have, the one-liners that she used to. She's become a little more mellow, perhaps, or a little more accepting in her older age, as I would say it goes. And I think it makes sense. Meryl Streep's character is much more vulnerable. I think she's accepting of the times have changed, and maybe she's not, with it 100% like she used to be. And that makes sense as a story decision, because where else are you going to take that character if you're going to make a sequel to The Devil Wears Prada, where in 2006 we are witnessing her at her peak, her apex mountain, if you will. It's, she's at the prime of her powers, Miranda Priestly. And so we can't just go back to that 20 years later and she's still killing it, which there is evidence that, she is still kind of killing it, but she's trying to keep up with the times and is much more accepting is a word I've used, but maybe even defeatist about listen, maybe this is just how it is. I can't have it my way as much anymore. Anne Hathaway is definitely the main character of this movie, because Anne Hathaway gets fired from her job, as I mentioned, and then she goes back and works at Runway again under mysterious circumstances. I won't, but she comes back and she's like, all right, I'm here to bring Runway magazine back into the good light, because it had some bad press, in the first 10 minutes of the movie, whatever. And things ensue. Chaos ensues a little bit. Miranda's cold to her first. He warms up to her. Something that kind of never happened in the first movie. But we keep going back to the private equity is destroying everything. Miranda is about to take over the entire, the greater company, I suppose, the company that owns Runway. And the original owner drops dead before the promotion can ever take place. Oh no. And so some chaos ensues. Enter Emily Blunt, who is working at Dior as a higher up, I don't know, something like that. And Emily Blunt more or less is, plotting. We don't really know it until the end of the movie-ish, but you kind of suspect it. That Emily Blunt's plotting to take over Runway, to buy out Runway, which brings me to, well, how does she get the money for Runway? Well, enter Jeff Bezos / Elon Musk, maybe? Probably more Jeff Bezos-esque. Going on in the background of this movie, there is a big divorce scandal between a billionaire and his wife, I guess. I don't know. And his wife, who was in the fashion industry, played by Lucy Liu in this movie, ends up buying out from under Jeff Bezos, not Jeff Bezos. His wife ends up saving the company, saves Meryl Streep, buys the company, does not let Emily Blunt take it over. And Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway and Stanley Tucci as well, who returns and is as charming as ever in this movie, if not a little bit mellowed out, I suppose. But who isn't mellowed out in this movie, I'd say. They save the day. Company does not get bought out by the bad billionaire. It gets bought out by the good billionaire who's gonna keep that. This is the part that sucks. It kind of sucks. And I'm okay with it sucking, because it doesn't suck in a movie sense. It just sucks that this movie is not reflecting. It's not deflecting away from real life, more or less, I guess. Where the argument of good billionaires versus bad billionaires, does that argument even exist, or is it just the enemy that you do know versus the enemy you don't know, more or less? I don't know. I think it's an interesting dichotomy that the movie doesn't really want to dig into, but it does present it enough on the surface where Lucy Liu, because of the divorce from not Jeff Bezos, has all this money now, and how is she going to spend it? Is she going to be defined by her marriage or ex-marriage, or is she going to be defined by what she does with the power that came with it? It's an interesting concept to explore in a movie. I wouldn't say it explores it. It kind of just happens in the background and almost becomes like an ex machina sort of thing. I wouldn't say I loved it, but it's interesting to explore if it wanted to dig into it more, but I don't really think it did. Just kind of hung out. I think Emily Blunt kind of wasted in this movie. I mean, I get it that, you know, if we're having a Lego sequel to Devil Wears Prada, she's got to come back and she's got to play some part in it. And that's the thing with these legacy sequels, where you're bringing back, you know, the bigger part of an ensemble cast, where you kind of got to place these people in very specific spots in the script in order to get them to interact, do callbacks, and just be involved in the plot overall. And I think sometimes it hits and sometimes it doesn't hit. I just think it's very weird. The relationship that Emily Blunt's character has to everyone else in this movie just feels a little bit off. I think Emily Blunt deserves better because she's obviously a fantastic actress, and I wish she would do better movies overall, or, you know, not play the wife role in Oppenheimer, which she was fantastic. And don't get me wrong, but, you know. One other negative about this movie, which again I did like overall, Anne Hathaway's personal life, her character, I should say. Just who cares? You know, there's a relationship with an actor I'm not familiar with. It's like on, and then it goes off, and then it comes back on. It's really, really annoying. I think all of the actors that are playing Anne Hathaway's friends in this are like actively bad, like really, really distracting in terms of like the quality of acting that they're portraying. No offense to them, but I thought it's pretty awful, when especially when you're sitting next to Anne Hathaway, who like is just the greatest actress ever. I'm like, yeah, this is like, she's acting everyone off the screen here. It's kind of embarrassing. We don't need all this, I don't think. Look, overall, this is a good movie. It's a good movie. I think it's much more interesting than some of these other Lego sequels that we have here, you know, like Gladiator 2, which I thought was more or less uninteresting, but good. I would call this interesting and good, but certainly cannot reach the highs of the original Devil Wears Prada. Like, and that's fine. Maybe it doesn't have to, because, you know, not every movie can be the Devil Wears Prada. Not every movie can be Citizen Kane. Sometimes movies are just good, and that's okay. This thing's gonna crush at the box office, apparently. It is Friday as I record this, and I think it's already made close to, you know, 40-50 million in Wednesday and Thursday night previews, which is crazy. So good for this movie. Good for Anne Hathaway and Meryl Streep. Good for all involved. Good for Dave Frankel, the director of this movie. Where's he been for the last 20 years? This guy directed The Devil Wears Prada, The Devil Wears Prada 2. Oh, he directed Marley and Me. I'm looking at my computer. He directed Marley and Me. Good movie. It seems like that's it. He kind of just has been hanging out ever since. But you know what? Good for Dave Frankel. He directed a good movie. 2 good movies now. But I wish I looked a little bit. Good fashion, like I said. The clothes are well done in them, I must admit. All right, that's it. I don't, you know, this movie's not as deep as some other ones I've reviewed in the past. But I think, you know, if you are a fan of The Devil Wears Prada 1, I can't imagine you're going to dislike this movie. It's not necessarily designed to offend no one, but any of its overarching themes that might be more interesting and more divisive are not really hit upon hard enough to bring any unwanted attention to it, I'll say. So, yeah, that's it. Go see The Devil Wears Prada 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.